Okay, welcome to today's video. I'm going to be talking about a rather very important topic to me, which is about why I care about communication actually. And what is how do I see that? How does that fit into life and everything that I'm interested in? So on one hand, communication, many people might think it's to do with the verbal language, or maybe also body language, this sort of interaction that's happening between humans. But I actually see communication as something that happens even amongst ourselves, and it starts actually with simply awareness and receiving of information. So maybe awareness isn't the right word, because we can receive information even if we're not cognitively aware of it. But for any communication to take place, it's really a transfer of information in a certain sense. And I feel like this model of looking at the world can be used to understand almost any system or problem or the universe or human life by looking at things as communication, as information being exchanged from one thing to another thing. And the fundamentals of how this works, this sort of model that we can build up, seems to be useful for understanding everything, because everything that we experience in life is some form of a communication. So when I stub my toe or hit my toe on a rock, or my whole sensory experience in life, actually, there's some sort of a input or a signal that my body is getting from the outside world, or even perhaps from myself. And first of all, being able to be aware of that signal, being able to take part of it, and then interpreting it, trying to understand it, is maybe like another step. So after receiving input, perhaps being aware of it cognitively, and then perhaps assigning some sort of a notation or a name to it, and trying to understand how relevant is this thing, how can I use it, what benefit does it have to me. And this is why communication is very important, because this receiving of information and then being able to do something with it and decide, okay, how do I want my life to go? What do I want out of my life? I have some information or some utility. So as a means to be able to move around the world and to be able to feel fulfilled, understanding the different dynamics of communication can be very useful there. So first of all, as we go through life, I would say there's two different ways that we can go through any sort of experience. One of them is being very aware and very cognizant and present, and feeling like you're in control. I'm deciding to move my hand, I can be aware of that. I'm also maybe, if I'm a good actor, I can decide to feel a certain way and to behave a certain way and be very much in control of the situation. And that can be also very tiring, very taxing. And sometimes we may go into that role where we feel like we're totally out of control of what's happening around us. I'm in a room and there's people around me, and I'm not able to, I feel overwhelmed, or there's different things going on, and I'm just an observer maybe, and just panicked, or not really feeling like I have any control over a situation. And so I'm not saying any one of those is better or worse, but in terms of my own self and my own life, and having dealt with a lot of heavy difficulties with depression and not feeling like life is really that enjoyable, being able to make changes, to notice new things that's going on around you, and to be able to change the experience that one has, and to be able to really feel, let's say, joy, or even like love, and to really appreciate that, is a much nicer form of existing than having to perhaps feel nothing. So it's with that sort of eye that I look at communication, and on the specific sense of between two people or between a group of people. It's a subset of that. I use this understanding of what is it that I note, what is it that I perhaps don't yet know, how am I feeling, what is the things that I'm aware of, what perhaps am I not aware of, and just taking this sort of a very cautionary and relaxed viewpoint to it. So there's a few other, besides the awareness aspect, one of the main concepts is this notation or notion. So the ability to put a name to something and to identify with it and have a certain utility for it. And we as people, oftentimes when we have these names or these labels, it can be very tricky for us when we communicate to recognize that this name or this label represents actually something in the real world, and is to not get confused or mix up with the name or the label itself, and realize that's also our interpretation of something and not the reality of the situation. So this mixing up of what is and what isn't is very tricky. And when we talk to ourselves in our heads, we stop allowing ourselves the freedom and the ability to just start to perceive what's going on. And when I started going to therapy, which is a very great way to start to change your patterns and your behaviors, which essentially is what communication is also about, right? Like, how can I communicate with myself in a way to either I can either stay the same, maybe not in control of the situation, I can just go through life, or how do I start to communicate, to control, to change, and to be more behind the steering wheel, more in control of the situation. So therapy, one of the lessons I learned was sometimes you're going to have feelings that are there that you don't like. You may feel like just staying in bed all day, but probably in the long run it'll be better for you to actually get up and to do things. Even if that doesn't feel good, you may know that you need to eat and you need to do these things, and they're going to help maybe in the long run, even if you're ignoring the current state of the feelings that you have in your body and taking an action based on a cognitive understanding. And this model really helped me for quite a long time. But I had this switch today where I kind of, I could find some new notation and clarity for this idea of actually changing the emotional state, let's say. So not just ignoring it and saying, look, I feel crap, but I'm going to behave as if I don't, which is, again, a good strategy. It helps. But being able to actually change the emotional state, so instead of feeling droopy and, look, I'm going to go do sports anyway, being like, okay, I'm going to give that a bit of time and see if I can make a change in my emotional setting so that I feel actually vibrant. I feel like I want to go out and do sports. And when I made this switch, I felt okay. Like, first of all, I'm being aware of this. I don't want to say emotion, because I feel most people have this idea that an emotion is something that happens to you, or a feeling is something that happens to you. For me, like, the word energy really feels right in that respect. It feels like it's something I can actually influence and control, and using different techniques such as visualizations or trying to put myself in a different mindset, reflecting on different things that are going on and giving myself maybe some space and time, and then being very aware of, like, oh, this way of being or thinking or is actually being detrimental to me, and I'm reacting based on that and getting caught in like some sort of a pattern or a loop, which is just anxiety and then worrying about not being good enough, and then more anxiety and so on and so forth. Being able to like grab a hold of that, let's say that power, that emotional energy, and being able to translate it into something that's like actually, wow, joyful or grateful. And so I'm sure many people have heard that, be grateful. And those are words, and generally when I would try to practice that gratitude, I would try and just do it in a very wordy, abstract, cognitive way. So, I'm grateful for, tell myself, I'm grateful for my friends or my family, and try and think it, but not actually be able to do that on the feeling or energy level, which is sort of where it counts. So it can be really hard when one doesn't know how to do that. I see it like using a muscle or doing a flip or a cartwheel, or there may be a lot of prerequisites that have to be done first. If you've done a lot of sports and movement, it may only take a little bit of training to be able to do that. But for someone who's never exercised those muscles, or maybe has never learned it, or it's been 10 years, there may be other damages or different patterns that come up, and it may take a lot more time before you can realize, oh, this is how actually gratitude feels like in the body, and this is how it makes me feel and behave. So I guess the essence of this little snippet is, there's many little essences there, but being able to realize actually, like, okay, giving myself time and following like the energy, being able to be aware of that and have my focus on that. So when I'm going around and interacting with people, being in new situations, instead of getting knocked back straight into being overwhelmed, or maybe different reaction patterns that I'm not happy with, keeping my eye on this this sort of energy, and really making an effort to make sure that I'm feeling in a way that is nice. I'm out here in the park right now doing a video, and if I was feeling anxious or worried and sort of forcing myself to do a video, hey, I've still done a video, that's great, but it's a much nicer experience if one can really appreciate, and I'm here anyway, I'm sitting here doing this activity, so to be able to really feel that and be like, wow, what a great moment, what an awesome experience. To really be present and aware, and that's for me an absolute blessing to be able to have that. And communication, like, again, these different parts of being able to note, like, what are the, I didn't really have a name to put on, I've used that word before, energy, and tried to use it to convey certain things that I wasn't really clear about, and many people will use this word as well to convey different things. And for me, realizing, okay, there was, I got a bit more clarity on this sort of concept and of idea. Yeah, that's what I wanted to sort of share today. I hope that's sort of helpful. Tying that back into these topics I had at the beginning of communication as a means for noting and making decisions, and valuing as well. What do we like? What don't we like? And what's going to guide me towards achieving my dreams or fulfillment or needs? But this ability to have a keen sense of awareness, this ability to have a very good note-taking capabilities, to put tags on things that are actually important for us, and to, I think, be in control when we want to be of these feelings, of these emotions, of this energy, and that feels to me like the essence of good communication. And on the verbal sense, if you've ever done a communication course, you'll be aware that a lot of these courses, they start off with trying to dial into the body and understand what it is that I'm feeling to be able to communicate that to others. But the real power for me is actually being able to understand that myself. And I don't need to put words on it. I don't need to have other people agree with me and understand my feelings, even though it can be helpful to talk about them. Going and experiencing life in the way that I want, and allowing that communication to happen. And for me, that's what the skills of communication are really about. So getting away from, I think, this programming that we have when we were born, right? When we're born, we learn to fit in and to get by. And I think through that experience, most of us don't actually learn how to take reins and take the control and to manifest ourselves fully, day to day, moment to moment. Instead, learning and falling back on different patterns and strategies, which is not bad, but as long as those patterns and strategies are a useful tool and not one that is causing us to live lives that are not as fulfilled as we would like them to be. So in terms of fulfillment, I mean, this is what I think I care about as an individual, but when we look at the world and see a lot of problems going on and things that are not right, or we want to fix something, or there's some governmental issue or problem, for me, I come back to this point. I think individuals themselves, like, we're not taking awareness and note and the things that are important to us. We're not taking control in the way that we want to, and doing things that actually make us feel good and make us be able to connect and care for others and to care for ourselves. And that's, I think, for me, the starting point for fixing anything, for fixing a difficult family situation or a difficult relationship, or even as an individual, fixing my own discontent and unhappiness and general dislike for life. So let's communicate